I finally found you, Mom. The surgeon was shocked to hear this from a strange patient under anesthesia. And when she finished the surgery, if you subscribe, your special seat will always be ready. You won't miss your story. This story is not real. Enjoy watching. Dr. Elena Harper adjusted the overhead lights in the operating room, her steady hands betraying none of the exhaustion she felt after a 12-hour shift at St. Mary's Hospital. The patient on the table, a John Doe in his late 40s, had been rushed in after a car accident on the I-95. His chart was sparse, no name, no family, just a scar running across his left cheek like a jagged riverbed. The trauma team had stabilized him, but his spleen was ruptured, and Elena was tasked with the surgery. She glanced at the anesthesiologist, Doctor Patel, who nodded. "He's under," Patel confirmed, the hum of the machine a steady rhythm in the sterile room. Elena took a deep breath, her hazel eyes narrowing as she made the first incision. Blood welled up, and she worked methodically, her mind briefly drifting to the life she'd left behind, her childhood, her mother's disappearance, the sister she hadn't seen in years. She shook off the thoughts, focusing on the task. The spleen was a mess, but nothing she couldn't handle. She'd done this 100 times. Then, a voice broke the silence. "I finally found you, Mom." Eleanor's scalpel froze mid-motion. She looked up, her heart slamming against her ribcage. The voice was slurred, faint, but unmistakable. It came from the patient, the man who was supposed to be unconscious under deep anesthesia. She glanced at Dr. Patel, whose wide eyes mirrored her own shock. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Patel nodded, his hands fumbling with the monitor. "That's impossible. He's under. Vitals are stable, but patients don't speak under anesthesia." "Mom!" The voice came again, a thread of desperation woven into the word. The man's lips moved slightly, his scarred face twitching as if caught in a dream. Elena's hands trembled. The word "Mom" hit her like a freight train, stirring memories she'd buried deep. Her own mother, Clara, had vanished when Elena was 6, leaving behind nothing but a faded photograph and unanswered questions. The police had called it a runaway case, but Elena had never believed it. She'd grown up in foster care, hardened by loss, eventually becoming a surgeon to save lives, perhaps to make up for the one she couldn't save. Now, this stranger was calling her Mom in the middle of surgery. Was it a coincidence? A hallucination? "Check the dosage," Elena ordered, her voice sharper than intended. Patel adjusted the anesthesia, confirming the levels were correct. The patient shouldn't be conscious, let alone speaking. Elena forced herself to focus, resuming the surgery, but the voice echoed in her mind. She stitched the spleen with precision, her thoughts racing. Who was this man? Why was he calling her Mom? As she closed the final incision, the operating room door burst open. A nurse, her face pale, rushed in. "Doctor Harper, there's someone here claiming to know the patient. She says it's urgent." Elena's hands stilled, the sutures dangling from her fingers. "Who is she?" she asked, her pulse quickening. The nurse hesitated. "She says she's your sister." The room seemed to tilt. Elena hadn't seen her sister, Mia, in over 20 years, not since their mother disappeared and their family fractured. She pulled off her gloves, her mind reeling. The patient's words, the scar, the sudden appearance of Mia, it was too much to be random. As she stepped toward the door, a chilling thought struck her. This surgery might not just be about saving a life, but uncovering a truth she'd spent years running from. Elena's footsteps echoed down the hospital corridor, each step heavier than the last. The nurse's words, "She says she's your sister," rang in her ears, a reminder of the past she'd worked so hard to escape. Mia. The name alone brought back flashes of a childhood long buried. Two little girls playing in a sunlit backyard, their mother's laughter filling the air. But that happiness had shattered when Clara disappeared, leaving Elena and Mia to be split up in foster care. Elena had thrown herself into medicine while Mia had drifted away. Their last contact a bitter argument at 18. The waiting room came into view, and there she was. Mia stood near the window, her brown hair streaked with grey, her hazel eyes, so like Elena's, filled with a mixture of hope and fear. She wore a faded scarf and a coat that had seen better days, her hands twisting nervously. When she saw Elena, her face crumpled, and she took a hesitant step forward. "Elena?" Mia's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. Elena stopped, her throat tight. "Mia? Is it really you?" Mia nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. She rushed forward, pulling Elena into a hug. The embrace was awkward at first. Years of distance had built walls between them. But then Elena felt something break inside her. She hugged Mia back, her own eyes stinging. "How? Why are you here?" she managed to ask. Mia pulled away, wiping her face with her sleeve. "It's him. The man you operated on. I saw his picture on the hospital's emergency board when I came looking for you. I knew it was him the moment I saw that scar." Elena's stomach dropped. "Him? Who is he?" Mia glanced around, lowering her voice. "His name is Daniel. Daniel Harper. Our brother." The words hit Elena like a physical blow. She stumbled back, gripping the edge of a chair to steady herself. "That's impossible. We don't have a brother. Mom and Dad only had us." Mia shook her head, her expression grim. "There's so much you don't know. After Mom disappeared, I was sent to live with Aunt Lila for a while. I found letters, hidden in Mom's old jewelry box. They were from her, written to a son she gave up for adoption before we were born. She never told Dad. I tracked Daniel down years ago, but he'd fallen off the grid. Until now." Elena's mind spun. A brother? The man on her operating table? "Why would he call me Mom?" she whispered, the anesthesia-induced words haunting her. Mia's face darkened. "I don't know. But when I found him, he was obsessed with finding her, with finding us. He said something about a memory, a voice calling him back. Maybe the anesthesia triggered it." Before Elena could respond, a shrill alarm echoed from the surgical wing. Her heart lurched. She turned to Mia. "Stay here," she ordered, sprinting back toward the OR. Dr. Patel met her at the door, his face pale. "He's awake," Patel said, his voice shaky. "And he's asking for you." Eleanor pushed past him, entering the recovery room. Daniel lay on the bed, his eyes half open, the scar on his cheek stark against his pale skin. His gaze locked onto hers, and a faint smile curved his lips. "Mom," he murmured, reaching out with a trembling hand. "I'm not your mother," Elena said, her voice cracking. "I'm your sister." Elena Daniel's eyes widened, confusion flickering. "No, you called me back. I heard you in the dark." Elena's breath caught. What did he mean? Called me back? She leaned closer, her heart pounding. "What are you talking about? Tell me." But Daniel's eyes fluttered shut, his hand dropping limp. The monitor stabilized, but the mystery deepened. Elena stepped back, her mind racing. If Daniel was their brother, and he believed she'd called him, could it be connected to their mother? A memory? A hallucination? Or something stranger? Mia appeared at the door, her face pale. "What's happening?" "I don't know," Elena admitted, "but we're going to find out." Elena's office was a small, cluttered space, a sanctuary of organized chaos where she retreated after surgeries. Now it felt like a war room as she and Mia sat across from each other, a stack of yellowed envelopes between them. The letters were written in their mother's elegant script, each one addressed to Daniel Harper at an adoption agency in Ohio. Mia had kept them hidden all these years, a secret she'd carried alone. "Read this one," Mia said, handing Elena the first letter. Elena unfolded the paper, her hands trembling. The words were a confession. Their mother, Clara, had given birth to Daniel at 16, a secret she'd kept from everyone, including their father. She wrote of her guilt, her love, her hope that Daniel would have a better life than she could give him. The letter ended with a promise. "I'll find you one day, my sweet boy. I'll call you home." Elena's chest tightened. "She never sent these," she said, her voice hollow. Why write them if she wasn't going to send them? Mia pointed to a postscript in the final letter. "Look here," she writes, "if I ever lose you, my voice will find you. I'll call you home." Maybe Daniel heard that, somehow, under anesthesia. Elena frowned. "That's poetic, but it doesn't explain how. Unless—" She paused, a memory surfacing. When she was a child, she'd woken one night to hear Clara humming a lullaby, a strange, haunting tune that seemed to linger in the air. She'd asked about it, and Clara had smiled sadly, saying it was for someone who'd come back one day. Elena had never heard it again, but the melody was etched in her mind. Could Daniel have heard that lullaby in his subconscious? Elena shook her head. It sounded insane, yet the coincidence was too strong. She stood, grabbing her coat. "We need to talk to him when he wakes, and I need to check something." At Daniel's bedside, Elena watched his steady breathing. The scar on his cheek seemed to pulse with every heartbeat, a mark of a life she didn't know. Hours passed, and his eyes finally opened. He looked at her, recognition dawning. "Elena?" he rasped. "Yes," she said, leaning closer. "You're my brother. Do you remember anything? Why you called me Mom?" Daniel's brow furrowed. I saw her, in the dark. She was singing. I thought it was you. The voice, it pulled me back." Elena's breath hitched. The lullaby. "What did she look like?" "Blonde hair, green eyes, like you, but older." His voice faded. "She said she'd find me." Mia, who'd joined them, gasped. "That's Mom." Elena's mind raced. Could Clara have been alive all these years, somehow reaching Daniel through his dreams? Or was this a trick of his fractured mind? She needed answers. "We're going to find her," she promised. "Together." Daniel managed a weak nod, his hand gripping hers. She left something. A box. In Vermont. She said it was for us." Elena exchanged a look with Mia. Vermont. It was a lead. A fragile thread, but a thread nonetheless. They had to follow it. Elena arranged for Daniel's care, ensuring he'd be safe while they searched. As they left the hospital, the weight of the unknown pressed down on her. What had Clara been hiding? And why had she disappeared? The drive to Vermont was long, the silence between Elena and Mia heavy with unspoken questions. They stopped at a diner just over the state line, the neon sign flickering in the dusk. Over coffee, Mia spoke. "I never stopped looking for her, you know, even after we fought. I thought if I found her, I'd find you too." Elena's throat tightened. "I thought you hated me." "I never hated you," Mia said softly. "I was just lost." Elena reached across the table, squeezing her sister's hand. For the first time in years, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they could rebuild what they'd lost. But first, they had to find Clara, or at least the truth. The farmhouse in Vermont was a relic of another time, its weathered boards creaking in the wind as Eleanor and Mia approached. The address came from one of Clara's letters, a place she'd mentioned visiting often. The windows were boarded up, the yard overgrown with weeds, but there was a strange energy to the place, a feeling of being watched. Inside, dust coated everything, the air thick with the scent of decay. Elena's flashlight beam swept across the room, landing on a faded photograph on the mantel. It was Clara, younger, holding a baby. Daniel. Elena's heart clenched. She was here, she whispered. Mia nodded, her voice shaky. Look for anything. A journal, a letter, anything. They searched for hours, overturning furniture, pulling up loose floorboards. Under the kitchen floor, Elena found a small compartment. Inside was a leather-bound journal, its pages brittle with age. Clara's handwriting filled every page, a chronicle of her guilt over Daniel, her secret trips to watch him grow up, and her fear of something, or someone. The final entry sent a chill down Elena's spine. I'm going to end this. The voice won't let me rest. They're coming for me. If my children find this, know I loved you more than life itself. Elena's stomach churned. End this? What does that mean? Mia's voice trembled. Maybe she felt trapped. Or maybe someone was after her. A noise outside made them jump, a creak of footsteps on the porch. Elena grabbed the flashlight, peering through a crack in the boarded window. A figure stood in the shadows, watching. Who's there? She called, her voice steady despite her fear. The figure stepped forward, a woman, blonde and weathered, with green eyes that mirrored Clara's. Clara? Mia whispered, her voice breaking. The woman smiled faintly. Not quite. I'm a sister, your aunt, Lila. Elena's mind reeled. Aunt Lila? Clara had never mentioned a sister. Why are you here? She demanded. Lila's expression darkened. Because Clara asked me to wait for you. She knew you'd come. She left something you need to hear. Lila led them to a cabin deep in the woods, her movements slow but deliberate. Inside, a wooden box sat on a table, its lid carved with a single word. Daniel. Elena opened it, her hands shaking. Inside were cassette tapes, each labeled with dates spanning 30 years. Mia found a small tape player in the corner, and they played the first one. Clara's voice filled the room, soft and haunting, singing the lullaby Elena remembered. Between verses, she spoke, If you hear this, it means I've failed. They took me because of Daniel. They knew I'd never stop searching. Elena's blood ran cold. Who's they? Lila's voice was grim. A group, a shadow organization. They wanted Daniel because of what he is. Clara wouldn't let them have him, so they took her instead. What he'd 26, what he is 2 is what he is. Clara wouldn't let them have him, so they took her instead. Elena and Mia exchanged a look. They had to find out what Daniel was and what had happened to their mother. Back at the hospital, Elena and Mia played the tapes for Daniel, who listened with tears in his eyes. The recordings revealed the truth. Daniel carried a rare genetic marker, one that a shadowy group believed could unlock advanced healing abilities. Clara had discovered their interest in him and fled to protect her children, leaving the lullaby as a subconscious beacon, a way to call Daniel back if he was ever lost. They killed her, Lila said quietly, but she made sure you'd find each other. Daniel gripped Elena's hand, his voice steady. She saved me. Her voice. It brought me back. Elena felt a weight lift. The surgery had reunited them, the anesthesia unlocking a buried bond. They vowed to uncover the group's identity, their journey just beginning. As they stood together, siblings reunited after decades, a new chapter opened, one filled with hope and the promise of answers.